But I remember, going to my pastor like the next Sunday and telling him like, "Hey, you said this last week. I feel like when you said that, the Lord was like, you're supposed to be in ministry. I don't know what to do with that."
Mhm.
And my pastor was like, "Yeah, I've been waiting on you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All
Wow.
right, Lord, so ministry it is."
So, despite all that, come first week of May,
Yeah,
life just, like,
yeah.
flips on its head.
And I don't remember what made me come to you a second time, but I came
Yeah.
to you again and I was like, "Hey,
Like, we
we need to pray."
like, for real.
I don't know. I don't have language. I don't know what's happening, but I feel something like internally. It's like we gotta pray. Matthew 25, comes to mind as we're talking. It's like, yeah, I placed all that in you because I
Mhm.
don't want you to like bury it in the ground,
Mm.
and I don't want you to lose hope because you going off and multiplying it doesn't necessarily look like the way that you thought it would look like.
Yeah.
I'm still giving you an avenue to multiply the gifts that I've given you.
But, yeah, when they prayed, I remember, like, opening my eyes and being like, "Is there cameras, like,
Literally,
in our house?"
yeah,
Like, how? Because it was like they birthed the language of what the Lord was speaking to
yeah.
us.
Hey, it's Dede, and you're listening to the Even for One podcast, hosted by my wife Maddie and I. We're here to create spaces for conversations that are centered around the one, for the one who needs him, and for the one who will help point others to him. We're so thankful that you're tuned in. Be sure to subscribe to the show and follow us on all of our social media channels. Let's take a listen to today's episode. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the first ever Even for One
So
podcast.
exciting.
How crazy is that?
I know. It's been a long time coming.
We've been talking about this for a very long time.
A minute. Probably even before, like, the vision of Even for One came about. Like, we're always like, "Man, we just have such good conversations and, like, why not record?" So,
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah. You literally said the other day, you're like, I just did a podcast with myself in the car. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Don't expose me.
oh my gosh. Well, on this talk, we haven't even introduced ourselves. I am Didi,
And I'm Maddie.
and we are obviously your hosts for the Even for One podcast, but we are also founders and executive directors of this ministry, this organization called Even for One. And we're going to dive a bit into what Even for One even is in this episode, in this
Yeah.
conversation. We're going to talk about how we got here, like where we presently are. And you guys will hear a little bit more about our story, like our personal stories. Like, we're married. We're married. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're
So
married.
much that you can see mine.
Yeah.
It's really hard to miss.
Well, but we'll talk about like our personal,
Yeah.
like how we got together and all those things in a different episode. But we really just wanted the heart for this episode to be you guys finding out more about like what Even for One even is,
Mhm.
how Even for One came to be, and kind of the journey that got us here to where we are now. We really just want you guys to know who we are, but beyond that, we want you guys to be encouraged. We want you guys to be
Yeah.
filled with faith. We want you guys to catch a vision of what the Lord has for you in your life through what the Lord has done through us in our story.
Yeah.
When it comes to Even for One in this ministry. So I'll kind of have you like kick it off and I can start with this question. But
Yeah.
how do we get here?
I could just say it in one sentence. I had to say by the grace of God. Hello.
Come on.
But, it birthed from a phrase that we said a lot in our household as we were, dreaming and receiving visions from the Lord and seeking him in prayer and through his word and through community. The phrase even for one. And the heart of that is, everything that we do, ministry specific in this case is even for one, well, is for Jesus, but to reach the one through Jesus for Jesus, whether that's for the first time or just, growing in discipleship, what it looks like to have a relationship with Jesus. So, I mean, if I could sum it up in like a few sentences, I would say that. But of course, we're gonna dive a little bit more into
Yeah.
detail and share the story.
Yeah. And that's really the heart of what it is that we're doing. But I guess like the origin and the genesis of that. I know for me personally, it started a decade ago now.
Yeah.
I was 17, and I remember one Sunday my pastor was preaching, and he was telling the story about how he had given his son his chores, a to-do list, whatever you want to call it. And he was going to go and actually run some errands that day, and he, went out and did his errands and did his thing, and he came back home and he found out that his son hadn't like finished his to-do list. He hadn't finished all
Mhm.
the chores that he had given him to do, and I remember him talking about like his disappointment and all those things. And I felt like in that moment, the Lord was saying like, "Yeah, I don't want that to be you.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be preaching. You're supposed to be in ministry."
Mhm.
And at this point, I'm like, I'm 17. What does that even mean,
Right.
brother? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Nobody in my family was like in quote unquote in ministry like that I knew of that I had saw on like a full time extent. So I was like, I don't have any context for this. I don't really know what
Mhm.
that means. But I remember, you know, going to my pastor like the next Sunday and telling him like, hey, you said this last week. I feel like when you said that, the Lord was like, you're supposed to be in ministry. I don't know what to do with that.
Mhm.
And my pastor was like, yeah, I've been waiting on you.
Yeah.
And I was like, all
Wow.
right, Lord, so ministry it is.
Right, right.
At this point, I'm 17, so it's like, yeah, like, okay, I had this call from the Lord for ministry, but at the same
Mhm.
time, um, you know, I wanted to play college football really bad. So football is like a big part of my life. I'm from Texas in true Texan fashion. It's God, my wife, football. Obviously not my wife at the time, but God, family, football.
Yeah,
Um, so I was really big in football. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this whole football thing out.
yeah.
And I wound up going to a Bible school. They had a football team, played football there. And I got a degree in communication studies and biblical studies. So the ministry thing was kind of in the back of my mind, but my context for ministry was like, okay, pastor, person on a platform,
Mhm.
they work at the church all week. That must be what ministry is. So like
Right.
my definition of being in ministry from 17 on was like, all right, I need to work on a church staff. I need to work in a church building throughout the week, and then obviously on Sundays, like that's part of my job too. So like that's what ministry is. That's a success of what ministry looks
Mhm.
like. And so that was kind of my thought process. That was kind of my heart when it came to ministry. Like if I'm not working on the church staff, I'm not doing ministry.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know, like, I don't know
yeah,
what that looks like. I don't know what else ministry would be.
yeah.
Um, and I know kinda for you, you
I
kinda
was
had
gonna
like a
say yeah, that's
similar experience.
the same, like I grew up in the church and reading a Bible and praying and serving was important and it was a priority. My parents were youth pastors at one point, and so I always saw my mom and dad faithfully like serve at whatever church we were at. So that was my kind of thought process too. That's what I thought ministry was like maybe not necessarily like what my parents were doing, but like people that were, like you said, at the church 7 days a week. They were up on the stage with a microphone in their hand.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what ministry is. I think a lot of that too. I think social media and the internet has changed that a lot. I think at one point that probably was like a bulk of ministry, but as we've grown in our faith journey and we've been in different places and um, I don't know, just seeing more, realizing that ministry is not just what we grew up seeing, which was again someone on a stage with a microphone, on a platform, and completely like giving their lives to a local church.
Yeah.
Being that was like how you were in ministry, in quote.
Right. So that being our mindset,
Hmm.
I got to, live that out, like being on a church staff in two different contexts. I got to technically be on a church staff at the church that I grew up in Texas. And then um I moved to Missouri after I graduated from college. I stayed in Missouri full time. And about a year into being in Missouri or so, I actually got to be like full time on a church staff there in Missouri as
Hmm.
well. So again, my thought process, my vision, my view of success in ministry is I'm on this church staff. Like I'm getting paid to, do the Lord's work. Like,
Hmm.
wow, what a blessing. And you came along into the picture. I know for me, thank God, by the grace of God, you came along.
Which is crazy because I like felt like you were just like full fledged
Yeah,
in
it felt like it.
youth ministry. Like when we were talking about, like just kind of reflecting about what we wanted to talk about this episode, I was like, man, it was only a couple months. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, like you dove headfirst and you might as well have been in it for years
yeah,
because it was,
it felt like it.
yeah,
Felt like it aged me a few years.
or maybe more of like brain rot, but
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I do. Okay, I do. Whenever all that stuff started going around, I was like,
yeah,
all right, I don't
we,
know.
we
I don't
love
know what's happening.
we love the youths.
Oh man, but yeah, I got to spend the bulk of my time in ministry, on staff doing youth ministry. Started out as a youth pastor, and living through being a youth pastor and all those things, I was like, all right, like I'm doing the thing. Like we
Yeah,
talked about it a little bit before, but like that was kind of like my identity started to be wrapped up in like, yeah, I'm on staff. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm a youth pastor. Like, what do you mean? Like the
yeah.
Lord called me to this when I was 17. Of course, like
Mhm,
this is what my life is. I remember some of our first conversations because we did long distance.
mhm.
So some of our first conversations was like, hey, I'm on this church staff.
Yeah.
uh, I'm pretty rooted here in Springfield, Missouri, so if this is gonna work out.
Someone's moving and it's not me. That was pretty much the conversation. Yeah.
Oh
That's
man.
probably, like, one of my, like, earliest, like, conversations I remember having, because you were that very much like, "I'm without a doubt certain that the Lord has called me here, and if I move, I'm being disobedient." And
Right.
I was like, "Okay, wow, yeah." And I remember too thinking like, "Okay, I'll worry about that, like, if we get
But yeah.
engaged." And then we got engaged, I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
I'm moving, I guess," so the Lord did a work in me, but
Well, I
yeah.
saw it happen real time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have this, that's our context, that's our thought process.
Yeah.
And this is, we got engaged in May of 2024.
Mhm.
So you moved down to Missouri at the
End
end
of July.
of July.
July,
You
yeah.
moved out to Missouri. So we're in Missouri together, and now we're here together doing ministry like
Mhm.
full time together essentially.
I
Um
was I was serving as, like, the
yeah,
high school girls,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
leaders,
yeah,
essentially, facilitating and kind of, like, I don't wanna say hosting, but just, facilitating, groups for the high school girls and the youth,
yeah,
and then it progressed to worship, which a little context from me is I shared my parents were youth pastors and, like, serving the church was, like, important, and that was what, like, my parents taught was, like, a priority was serving, and, so I grew up from, like, so little, like, singing, on stage,
I
or,
remember
like
you said there was a like a video or a
yeah.
VHS of something review on a fireplace or something.
Yeah, I was up on a fireplace. My dad was like a modern day vlogger back in the day and has so many videos, which I'm so thankful for. It's like so sweet because I heard a quote that said, if you are unsure of what God may be calling you to, like go back and look at the passions you have when
Mm.
you're little. And there's a video of me on a fireplace with a hymnal book, and I was singing and like preaching to my dad, and I like yelled at him mid video. I was like, "Sing." Um, so I had to learn the whole grace aspect of
Well,
this, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I grew up like I would sing in church on Sundays, like 7 years old, like very little, sang for like some upwards basketball halftime shows.
wow,
If you know, you know.
we got the halftime show
Oh
going.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, big halftime show girly. But yeah, so I grew up singing, and I did that all the way through high school, whether it was, like, actually at church or not. Kind of, like, once I hit high school, middle school, high school, I kinda started to do more so just, like, the musicals and show choirs. Like, singing was always, like, a big part of my life, but slowly progressed out of the church,
Mhm.
and then after I graduated, like, I completely stopped singing. And that was, like, really hard because I knew that the Lord had given me that gift, and I know that every gift that we're given, like, we're to use that to, um, bring glory to God's
Yeah,
name, but I was, like, so fearful, I felt like I didn't know enough, I just didn't feel equipped, honestly, and then out of college,
yeah,
when that started to come back because we were together, I was
yeah,
like, I'm, like, way too far out of it now, like, I don't even know if I can still sing for real, you know? And so, yeah, that was kinda my context of ministry, so, like, ministry again was, like, people on a stage and, or, serving and being paid by the church, and then, once I got out of college and just seeing that in a different light through you, but also that's still the same way, and just kind of coming to terms with the fact that, like, "Hey, this is, like, a gift I've given you, Maddie, and, like, you're to steward that and use that for me."
yeah,
And just being with someone that was encouraged when I say that, it's like you were someone that encouraged me to go after all the things that God had called me to do, and I was, like, having to it was like facing a fear, truthfully,
mm,
of knowing that I was supposed to do it and not feeling like enough
yeah,
to do it
yeah,
again.
yeah, and that's kinda wild. I mean, obviously, knowing you, obviously, and I'm married to you, clearly, but seeing you now compared to whenever we first started having those conversations, it's crazy just to see what the Lord has done. I'm super
Yeah,
proud of you, honestly. And obviously, it's the work of the Lord, but I'm
for
proud of
sure.
you, like, as a person,
Yeah,
for how you
thanks.
navigated through all that and how you, like, have really come into your own when it comes to worship and all those things.
Mhm.
Um, and it's part of why we're here.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
back
like,
at that
I
time,
was to say, just
yeah,
shared the context of
yeah,
that too, kinda what I was facing or, like, mentally processing while you were stepping into ministry in the way that you were, and then I was kind of indirectly coming into that as well, especially when I was in Missouri, um, just indirectly, directly being a part of being on staff at
Yeah,
a church.
yeah, being
Yeah,
like doing ministry, like
yeah,
literally.
yeah.
So we're there. Yeah, we're doing
Mhm,
the ministry thing. And that's that's like towards the end of 2024 going into 2025. So at this point, I've been on staff at this church for a couple years at that point. Yeah, a couple
mhm,
years at that point. Um, and this is a multi-site church, so the way it functioned was I was a youth pastor. I started out as a youth pastor at one of our campuses, but then by the grace of God, I actually got to, level up, if you want to call it.
mhm.
And I got to oversee all of our youth at our campuses that we had. Felt like I was really thriving in that role. Felt like, I was obviously growing as a leader because something I never done before,
Mhm.
overseeing that amount of people and all those things. So I started to feel like really good about like, oh, like, okay, yeah, I'm really doing the ministry thing. And I
Right.
got my wife here in Missouri with me. Come on now. Like, I feel great.
It
Like,
was so fun to do ministry together.
it was.
Like, I felt so fulfilled. That was probably, like, my favorite, like, thing
Yeah.
that we did together. Like,
Yeah.
of course, I love, like, dating and all this stuff, but, like, I always walked away, like, so fulfilled. Like, it makes sense now because it was like we were walking in what the Lord was calling us to, which
Yeah.
was ministry.
Yeah.
We thought in the way that we were doing it was that time,
Yeah.
but I think no matter honestly, like, what this looks like going forward, like, I believe that we were called to ministry in some capacity, and so, obviously, doing that together was just, like, such a fulfilling experience.
Yeah. I feel like every Wednesday it was like, yeah,
Mhm.
we're doing
Yeah, because then I started singing
yeah.
every Wednesday. We didn't
Yeah.
have much of a worship team for our youth, and I was basically told, "Well, you can sing." So, and I was like, "Okay." I'm so thankful for that. Like, it felt kind of like an obligation because it was like, do we not have youth worship when you can sing and you're there every Wednesday anyways because of
Yeah.
your husband? Or I guess we were engaged at the time, but I was coming every Wednesday to serve with the high school girls, and so I was like, I mean, yeah, and so I'm very thankful for that experience, and that is like what got me back into worship, and I just absolutely like fell in love with it.
And through navigating all that, we get to a point where it's like, all right, like it's kind of what our life's gonna be.
Hmm.
Um, you've moved down to Missouri.
Yeah.
This is kind of what our life's gonna look like for the next umpteen amount of years.
Hmm.
And all this going on in the background at the same time of all that happening was because our church was multi-site. We're expanding, getting another campus and all these things.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of like figuring out who's gonna be the next campus pastor,
Hmm.
all these things that are going to go on with this, new campus at this church.
Hmm.
And I put my name in the hat maybe
Hmm.
like a year and a half
You had a lot of
before.
people encourage you to put your name in the hat
That's
too.
also true.
Yeah, we had,
Yeah.
like, a lot of people that were like, "Didi, you should, like,
Yeah.
consider"
Yeah.
it like, a lot of, like, people that, we love and knew a lot about us
Yeah.
and, were really pushing us to this, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you put it in, I guess I say we, but, like, you put your name in, like, faith, so we're thinking, "Okay, we feel have good we have good feelings about it, and, like, clearly so do other people."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I put my name in there and having conversations, all these things. I'm thinking like, okay,
mhm.
like this is the next logical progression. Like you just said, that was part of the decision making process, part of the conversations that we were having where it's like, yeah, you got moved out of Missouri to
Yeah,
it.
right.
So that's going on in the back of my mind. I'm like, all right, like we have this new campus thing happening, potentially. It's
Yeah,
like, all right, like
let's do
we're
it.
really doing the ministry thing. Like
Yeah,
I'm really about
well,
to
then
be
let's, like
on
let's do
staff.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And a big thing for me, like part of the story is that I moved to Missouri um after I graduated college, but then I wound up going back to Missouri and live there full time.
Mhm.
Um and got to play extra season of football and all those things. But when I was there, I felt this really strong conviction to be like, yeah, I can't leave Springfield. Like, I don't have any business
Mhm.
leaving Springfield. Um, and because my thought process was, if I'm not on church staff, I'm not successful. There
Right.
were some thoughts of like, maybe I should just go back to Texas.
Mhm.
Maybe I should go back with my family and all these things.
Mhm.
But I felt this really strong conviction from the Lord, like, no, like
You're supposed to
you're
be
supposed to
here.
be in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
If you leave Springfield, Missouri, you're being disobedient.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Lord, all right, for
Right.
sure. Um, so I have that going on, but then I come to you like January, February of 2025, and I'm like, hey, I don't feel that conviction anymore. I don't really know what's going on. I don't have any other language for it, but can you just pray? Like,
Yeah.
pray about the future, pray about what's going on, and all these things. And I remember you were like, hey, buddy,
Like, I
I
just
just
moved
got
here.
here.
Did I actually, like, look at you say no?
No, I don't
I
think so.
it's like, I know for a fact I said it in my
Yeah, I
head,
was about to say, I feel like
but
it's more of an internal dialogue.
yeah. Yeah, because I again, yeah, I just had moved late. like literally like the last week of July in 2024. We're now in January 2025. And it was really hard. I had a great community. I actually had 2 jobs. I worked at 2 different offices as a dental hygienist, and loved it there. I loved my church community. Like I finally like a big part of my story is like um getting to that point
Yeah.
of like having a good community, having a good church. And I finally had it literally a year before I moved. And so like me moving there was a really, really big deal, which I could of course like go more into like my story in like another episode. But so I'm like mentally like locked in with Missouri, like I'm like, I've made this home, I'm making this home,
Yeah.
like I've grown to love things about it. I'm like finally at a place where I'm like, okay, Lord, like I can make this work,
You were like
you
the
know?
queen of like finding like random Facebook events that
Oh yeah.
were
Oh yeah.
like actually really
Like
fun.
really trying to make it like something I enjoyed, and I didn't want to resent what I felt like God was calling me to.
Yeah.
And it was a whole process mentally, but yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to pray. And like probably so that was like what, January, February.
Yeah.
Flash forward, to, like, March.
Hmm.
So, actually, I should go back a little bit. When I got a job in Missouri, it was a pediatric office. I love working with kids, which was funny because I know we just talked about the youth, but, like, I just love doing pediatric dentistry, and I could not find a pediatric office in Springfield that
Yeah.
would take a hygienist. Missouri's a way more relaxed about, certificates and stuff, and so the need for a hygienist was very low, and hygienists obviously get paid like twice as much as an assistant. All that to say, there's very few offices that are willing to take and pay a hygienist. And I remember that I was like praying and praying, praying. It was 2 weeks before I was supposed to move, and the Lord was like, "Check Indeed one more time." And
Hmm.
I found this office. They agreed to do a Zoom interview with me. I got the job, moved down there, and, right when I moved down there, I think it was a doctor or someone. They're like, "Where were you from?" And I was like, "Well, I just moved from the Cincinnati area." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like, we're getting ready to open offices in Cincinnati." And I was like, "Great." Like, I was like, love that for them. Like, I'm like, "No, I don't wanna hear that," you know? And, so, yeah, so that was back in July that or I guess August, they had said that, and then come March, um, the director of operations, so my boss's boss came to me and was like, "Do you wanna move back?" And I was like,
No.
No, I don't." Like, you must be talking to my husband because no, I'm just kidding. Because at the time, we didn't have language for
Yeah.
what we felt like
Yeah.
was shifting, but he was like, asked me, like, probably 2 or 3 more times after that, like, "Do you wanna move back? Like, we'll move you back. Like, we'll make you a manager, da, da, da." And I'm like, "No, like, I'm here, I'm pretty content in my job." I always say that I'm in the people business, making the teeth pretty is, like, a bonus.
Yeah.
And so I love where I'm at. I don't have a desire to climb a corporate ladder. I'm very content. I'm here for my husband. So despite all that, come first week of May,
Yeah.
life just like
Yeah.
flips on its head.
And I don't remember what made me come to you a second time, but I came
Yeah,
to you again and I was like, hey,
like we
we need to pray.
like for real.
I don't know. I don't have language. I don't know what's happening, but I feel something like internally. It's like we gotta pray. I
Yeah.
don't know what like this is, but we need to pray about it. Um,
And spiritually, like I knew. Because at that point I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pray.
yeah. So we continue to navigate like through serving faithfully and all these things and
Hmm.
youth ministry and overseeing youth and all these things.
Yeah.
But then we get to the first week of May 2025.
Mind you,
So
a month after we got married.
yeah,
Like,
in the middle of that, we got married April 4th, 2025.
yeah.
So not even a month into marriage. I would let you explain like that first week because a lot of it was like it was interesting how it all played out
Hmm.
because it felt like the majority of the like events that happened were like playing out through you,
Yeah.
and it was kind of giving me like the clarity of like, oh, this is
Yeah.
what was going on.
Like, it gave it language, which I think
Yeah,
is, like, so beautiful because I feel like that's how marriage is.
yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
Lord
that's true.
uses both, like, the spouses, like, I don't know, I thought to me it was so sweet because I think being with someone that was in full-time ministry and I felt like the Lord spoke to you all the time, and especially, like, as a man too, like, that's, like, your role is to, like, lead, and it's like, of course, like, the Lord's gonna speak to you, but, like, the Lord used my life to kinda put language to what you had been feeling, and I don't know, that was, like, really sweet, like, a
Yeah,
month into marriage. Um, Maybe not the events, but,
well,
you know,
yeah.
but
Talk about
in the moment, yeah.
talk about a life marriage lesson.
Yeah.
27 days in.
Literally, yeah, and I know
But
we've talked about this
yeah,
too, like, just how, we didn't date perfectly, we weren't like, "engaged," in quote, "perfectly," but I think I know the way that we prepared, really worked out in our benefit
yeah,
walking through the things that we did because I think I don't love when people say, like, marriage, especially the first year, is hard or whatever,
yeah.
um,
I hate
I
that so much too.
I know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't think marriage is hard, I think what we walked through is hard,
Mhm.
and I think how you prepare before marriage.
And how you respond while you're in it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
and what if you keep the main thing, which is Jesus, like, yeah, it's gonna shift some things if your priorities aren't in check, so
Yeah.
let me not preach, but
Well,
so
talk us through the first
yes,
week of May
let's
2025.
yeah, so I Dede came to me and was like, "Hey," or he came to me and was like, "We really need to pray." I'm like, "Okay, like, I will." I felt like that urge of like, "All right, what's it gonna hurt?" You know? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the reason I didn't pray back in January is because I was fearful of, like, it switching up, you
You
know?
just moved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I just was like, "What in the world?" Like, I just moved and took so much to, like, get here and, like, feel okay about things, and so I was like, "Okay." Well, we always kinda wanted to end up in Cincinnati. Like I said, like, we just loved it there, but we were being faithful
Mhm.
to where we felt like God was calling us, and so I start praying, and I think about 2 or 3 days into praying, I believe I got a text message, maybe a call, and I was told my mom got diagnosed with leukemia. And growing up, my mom and I wouldn't say we had a bad relationship. It just is not the relationship we had to have
Yeah,
today.
I was about to say, you
Um,
based off of, the amount of time that I've known you guys, I would have never guessed.
that's
That's like your best friend.
my best friend, yeah, like, I FaceTime her and call her all the time,
Yeah.
and so moving and things like that, that was something that I had considered was gonna be a reality, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you could understand too, moving
Yeah.
from your family, like, your grandparents are getting
It's a
older,
long way
your
away.
siblings are getting older, your parents are getting older, people get sick, and you're not there, and that was just, like, really hard, especially when it's like, "Man, like, my mom and I are, like, best friends now, and, like, now this is happening, and I can't be there for her in the way that I wanna be."
Yeah.
And so that happened, and that was just, like, processing that, and I think, like, a day or 2 later, you had come to me and was like, "Hey, I had a conversation with, like, some leadership at the church, and, like, they're kind of taking a different direction
Yeah.
in regards to the campus pastor, position," and you didn't have language for it, but you had this, like, conviction lifted off of you, if I would say, of being like a youth pastor. Like, I don't think this is my forever job.
Right.
And so if I'm not gonna step into this job as a campus pastor, but I know my youth pastor job isn't forever, like, what is God calling me to? Because like we're so blessed and we like loved serving in youth, but like we just knew that there was something different.
Yeah.
And we just if it wasn't a campus pastor position, there was nothing else
At
open.
the yeah.
Yeah, like, there was
Yeah.
nothing out there was no other job, there's no other church, and so we're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, what does
Yeah.
that look like?"
And for me, like being a youth pastor, um, I wasn't like the stereotypical like, let's blend up a happy meal and drink it on stage, like that was this was my vibe. I was like,
Yeah.
I cared really deeply about the preaching and the teaching. So
Mhm.
I probably got labeled as, not fun, by some I
I
don't
don't
know, by some
know.
but it just I don't know. That's I'm
I
trying
get
to
yeah.
articulating like the context around like
Yeah.
why we felt like, oh, like, well, if this campus pastor thing's going a different direction, what
What
do
does
we
that mean
do?
for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that right or wrong? The Lord moved anyways, I don't know. But yeah, so
So, yeah,
yeah,
that those
we had the
things had
conversation where I had the conversation about, going a different direction,
yeah.
find out mom has leukemia.
Mhm.
That's 2 out of 3 things that happened in
This is what,
6 days.
day 4 or
Yeah,
5
this
of
is day
praying?
4,
Yeah.
first week of May. So
Yeah. I got put into a group chat of my boss and the director of operations
mhm,
for my company, and they were like, "Hey, we wanna offer you a manager position at our Cincinnati location in Ohio, obviously. Um, and we wanna make you a manager. Here's your pay increase. We're gonna help out financially with you guys moving back. And by help, I mean pay for everything,
yeah,
and take it or leave it." I remember, like, we were sitting on the couch, and I was just like, "I guess we're moving back." And, of course, we didn't make the decision right
yeah,
then and there. I prayed, and I talked to my family, and we talked about it. I talked to some, like, close friends that I trusted and some, like, just people that I know love Jesus and, live their lives for him and just people that we can trust, and, before accepting the position. But, yeah, it was literally a span of 6 days, and it was just like the Lord was just, like, I don't wanna say closing the door, but just, like, truly opening a door,
Yeah.
redirecting to where he ultimately wanted us to go,
Yeah.
and we kinda were like, "I guess that's Cincinnati."
And yeah, I remember, like, to give context for Cincinnati in itself, like, I remember
Mhm.
you lived, like, here in the area,
Yeah.
and we did long distance, so I remember the first time coming to Cincinnati, I was like, "Oh, shoot, I love this place."
Yeah.
I'd live here,
Yeah.
you know?
We, like, loved it, like
Yeah,
and that's like I said, that's always where we wanted to, like, end up.
yeah,
We're just trying to be faithful to where
yeah.
we
I
feel
didn't think
like
that was gonna happen.
not a year.
Yeah,
Not even a year. I hadn't been there a year yet, and we
yeah,
found out we were moving.
yeah,
We were moving back after taking a week, and I applaud you how you handled that season too, because I know, like you alluded to, like, being a youth pastor and being in ministry in that way kinda had kinda become an identity, which I think makes sense now looking back that the Lord was trying
good.
to strip that from you
Yeah,
because he's like, "That's not your identity,
yeah.
like, you're my son," but the way that you handle that through that hurt, because it was hurtful, um, maybe not, like, in the way that, like, it was handled, but, like, hurtful in the sense of, like
It was a very I'm trying to find the right word. This is a very taxing season, I would
yeah.
say, um,
Like, I remember, like, you would never,
mentally,
like, talk a
emotionally.
lot about it, but,
Yeah,
like, I could just tell it really impacted you thinking that, "Man, I'm about to step away from what
yeah,
I thought I was supposed to do
yeah.
for the rest of my life."
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's I mean, that's great language, but that's really what was going on internally
Mhm.
for me. I was like, "You called me to this when I was 17.
Yeah.
I thought this was, like, what it was supposed to be."
Yeah.
Um,
'Cause at the time, there was
yeah,
nothing in Cincinnati for you, like,
uh,
ministry-wise.
yeah,
Like, at that
yeah.
point when
At
we
that
were
point,
having that
yes,
conversation,
yeah.
there was
There
nothing
was nothing
lined up.
there. Yeah, yeah,
And it was I wanna say it was easy for me because I obviously considered you, but I was like, I mean, "Yeah, let's go. I'm getting a raise and a promotion, and
mhm,
yeah, let's do this. We're getting this paid. Like, we always wanted to go back here." Like,
mhm, mhm.
but it was, like, such an emotional roller coaster, like,
Very
for
much,
both of us.
very much.
Because then I also cried probably more than you did thinking about moving.
Yeah,
Despite popular belief, I was very sad to leave, like,
yeah,
because I had created it to be my home.
yeah.
Like, a lot of people assume that I, like, convinced Dede to move, and I'm like, "Y'all, like, I didn't even wanna pray, like,
Not for real.
5 months ago
Yeah,
about this because I didn't wanna leave."
yeah,
And, um, the Lord came to you again and was like, "No, we need to pray."
mhm,
And so, of course, we were excited, but,
yeah.
like, I was also very
It was
devastated.
very yeah,
We
yeah,
had a re I mean, we still have an amazing community there, which
yeah.
actually ends up playing a lot into
Mhm,
kind of the vision and the birth of Even for One. But we had a great community, and I had created a great community. I loved my job, loved my job. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, it was all that to say, it was very taxing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very taxing. So, Lord opens this door and we're
Mhm.
like, "We're gonna move to Cincinnati."
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, "Yeah, but working on staff at church, like, that's ministry, that's the end goal, that's what I'm supposed to do."
Right.
So I don't I don't even remember how, like, the opportunity came up, but,
Mhm.
like, maybe about a month or 2 before we moved, there was, like, this opportunity at this church in Cincinnati. It was like, "Hey, yeah, you can come be on staff here at this church," all these things.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't feel the greatest about it, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I was like, I mean, it's church, it's ministry, so,
The
like,
only thing
yeah,
that's opening up
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
So that's going on in the back of our mind. So we might up mind up moving up here to Cincinnati.
Mhm.
You get off and running with your job, you're killing it and all these things. And I decide to go and, tour, basically interview,
Yeah.
with this church opportunity, this ministry opportunity that's here in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And I remember I went, I toured, church is super nice, like,
Mhm.
had the interview, got fed lunch and all these things. Actually hung out with the church, kind of like a 2-day thing, hung out with them the next day as well and got to see like how, they did things and all these things. I remember coming to you and telling you like what like it all entailed and the benefits and what it looked like and all these things.
Mhm.
And on paper, it was like, "Heck yeah, bud."
It was like this was the answered prayer
Yeah.
because I mean, I, of course, could share this, like, more in depth in another episode, but, I of course, as excited as I was to move to Cincinnati and start this career, and I'm just so thankful that the Lord, was, kind of promoting me too, just, like, in spaces and, like, giving me just an authority of, like, leadership, which is, like, something that I feel like he's also called me to do is to
Mhm,
be in some form of leadership, whether that was at a church or in, the workplace.
mhm.
I did have an insecurity of, like, we're freshly married.
Yep,
How are we ever gonna have kids? How are we ever gonna buy a house? We have 2 dogs.
yep.
How are we gonna, like, give them the life that they deserve, whether that's, like, buying a house. I know it sounds silly, but it was just, like, there are
Yeah.
real life expenses with dogs, and
Yeah.
there's real life expenses with cars and
Yep.
just all, all the things, and I'm, like, I did have this insecurity of, like, this it felt like it was on me, and if I didn't show up, if I lost my job, like, we were gonna be in so much it just was a lot to think that I felt like everything financially was on me, and so when this opportunity presented itself and you don't ever go into ministry for the money, and this ministry job was going to be a substantial financial it felt like a blessing at the time, I guess, if you will. Yeah, it was very much like, "Yeah, this is it. This is what
Yeah.
you've been praying for.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
like
why
this is the
every other
thing.
door
It's like,
hasn't
oh, of
opened."
course. This is why we moved to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but no, like, neither one of us had biblical peace
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, I don't think that this is what God has
Yeah.
for us. I don't think this is his best.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't feel like I was supposed to. And I
Mhm,
was like, yeah, I don't think that's it.
mhm.
So that led to a lot of, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Because, everything that you just listed off. And then, me being a man, I'm like, yeah, you're the husband, you're the man of
yeah,
the household. You're supposed to like be
freshly
a
married.
provider, like
Yeah,
you're supposed to, go out, get your hands dirty, for lack of better terms, and do all
yeah.
these things to make sure, that your wife has everything that she needs.
Mhm.
Um, I'm like, well, I'm not working at church. What am I doing?
Right.
So to kind of give context to, all those emotions, all those things,
Mhm.
right before we moved to Cincinnati, um, two sets of friends that we have. One of them, my best friend from childhood, and his wife, Miles and Paige. We were hanging out at their house, and then another set of friends that we have, DJ and Hannah,
Mhm.
who played football with DJ, went to school with Hannah. We all went to Evangel, and all
Kinda
these
a big
things.
reason we
Yes,
met.
massive reason why we're together.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a different episode.
Yeah.
But we were all hanging out, and we decided to pray because I think DJ and Hannah were about to leave or something like the
Mhm.
next day or whatever. Oh,
And
they're
they're in
pastors. Yeah,
ministries, yeah.
they're pastors
They're
and all
in
these
ministry.
things. So we just were hanging out. We decided to pray before the night wrapped up and all these things.
Mhm.
Um, and as they were praying,
Yeah.
they started like speaking and praying and prophesying all these things that like I had only shared with the Lord, like in the
Yeah.
prayer closet, quiet time, all these things,
Yeah.
and I loosely
I was
talked to
say
you about
I felt
like,
like I had to, like, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but, like, drag a lot out of you. Like, "D,
well,
what are you thinking about? Like,
yeah,
what is your plan?" And a lot of it was rooted in insecurity. Like, I was go ahead and admit that in my humanness. Like, I was like, "So what are you gonna do to take care of me
right,
and our family?" That caused a lot of not tension, because I think by no means, like I said, like, I don't think that marriage has been hard.
mhm,
I think what we've walked through is hard, and I was battling that internal insecurity
absolutely,
that, I was raised in a family that made very good money, and if money was a struggle at any point, I didn't really know about it because my parents were very, and they still are to this day, very faithful stewards of their money. And I wanted that for us. I
yeah,
wanted that for our kids.
yeah,
And so that was really what it was. It was just manifesting itself into the situation coming out of like, what are we doing? Like, you need to go get a job. And you're sitting there, like you said, you're like, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still processing this with the Lord. Like, the Lord's giving me visions, but I have no idea. I don't have any language for that. I don't know what it looks like. And so, yeah, when they were praying for us, I had a couple things come to mind. And again, like through you loosely kind of talking to me, I feel like the Lord also spoke to me as well.
yeah,
But yeah, when they prayed, I remember like opening my eyes and being like, is there cameras like
literally,
in our house?
yeah,
Like, how? Because it was like they birth the language of what the Lord was speaking to
yeah.
us. Like, it gave us a
Give us
clearer
clarity, yeah,
vision and dreams and things that the Lord was already planting
yeah,
in our heart,
yeah.
so
So that happens, and it's like, all right. And
mhm.
then whenever we don't feel this peace about this church opportunity and this working on staff, it's like, what are we doing? But even as we're sitting here talking through that, it was like, oh, like all of that was playing out together. All of that was working together
Yeah,
because we didn't feel peace because this other thing that was happening over here, that had been spoken over us,
yeah,
that was really the anchor that I think the Lord wanted us to take hold of in
yeah,
that season. So, we start navigating through all these things and through a different conversation that I had, talking about that experience that we had with DJ and Hannah and talking about like, okay, what is like traveling and preaching, what does that even look like? I don't really know what goes into that.
yeah,
And having a conversation and advice was given like, build a website, get preaching clips, all these things. post on social media, do all these things. And I'm like, oh, easy enough,
Yeah.
simple enough. So make a website, gather some preaching clips that I had, and I start posting on social media, insights and wisdom that I felt like I was getting from the Lord,
Yeah. Yeah.
my quiet time and reading the Bible, just insights that I would get from the Lord.
Mhm.
Start posting on social media. I'm like, yeah, we about to blow up, bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we about to go all over the place.
Yeah.
I start posting. I'm like, why is this only getting like 2 likes?
'Cause we moved, like, like, I talked a lot about that insecurity, but I think we really did have a lot of faith
Oh
that,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
we never seen the Lord fail, like, why would he fail now?
right.
And so we're like, we finally you had that vision, like, "Okay, I just gotta post and, like, make a
Yeah,
website, like, this is it."
yeah,
And then, of course, we're humans and
yeah.
we sometimes wrongly base success off numbers and things like that, and when you don't see the numbers numbering, you're like,
Like,
"Okay,
what's
well,
going on?
what's going on?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm posting. You're posting too.
Mhm,
Posting. I'm like, why is this only getting 7 likes?
mhm.
Why is I spent a lot of time on this,
A
like,
lot.
not just a lot of time, like, spiritually, like, I spent a lot of time, like, typing and
Yeah.
graphic designing and all these things, like, I spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah.
I deserve more than 10 likes on this post. So I'm posting, I'm, like, trying to be consistent with that. I even remember we had a conversation one time because I didn't post for, like, a week and a half or something like that,
Yeah.
and you're like, "You giving up or something?" Something along those lines, and I was like, "No, I just don't like the fact that I spent all this time and then 2 people like it."
Mhm.
But whatever. But I remember one night we were working out, and you said something along the lines of like, "Would this be worth it if this was like if even only one person,
Like,
was
benefited.
impacted, or if even only
Yeah.
one person, got to see Jesus through this, would it be worth it?" And I was like, "Ah,
Which was, like, not at all said in, like, "Oh, I have it figured out,"
no,
because,
not at all."
that's something I had to, like, the Spirit checked me on. Like, is giving your entire life for me worth it even if one person benefits?
Yeah.
And we have a friend, he's probably, like, our biggest supporter in anything we do really, but
Yes.
definitely ministry. And, he would always we have a group chat and he would always text me like, "Bro, Dede, that blessed me. Like,
Yeah.
I needed that. And wow, that really changed my perspective on this. And wow, I'm really encouraged by that." And really it kind of birthed from that of like, even if his life is
Yeah.
impacted, I mean, he knows and loves Jesus, but for the person that
If he
might
can,
not,
yeah, exactly.
or even because I mean, the whole mission of this is to not only create resources and spaces for people who don't know Jesus, is also to encourage and grow the discipleship of those who
Yeah,
already
who
know and
know
love
Jesus, yeah.
Jesus. And so it's like, is it worth it if one person, if we truly believe what we do about hell and heaven and
Yeah,
eternity, is it worth it if someone goes from spending eternity in hell to heaven
yeah,
and having that relationship and getting to experience the earthly manifestation of
yeah,
heaven
yeah,
on earth,
yeah.
right now in this life.
Matthew 16, yeah.
And so yeah, I didn't say that. That was definitely the Holy Spirit because I that was not something I had figured out. It was something that the Spirit checked me of like, it should be worth it, like that's my child and you're my
So
child.
good. Yeah,
And I love them, and as a believer, like, God wants to use us as, a vessel to reach those people and to experience, gosh, what I've experienced, what you've experienced, and all the things. So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that was again, I just had to say that it was not something I had figured out,
yeah.
and it was just something that the Spirit was like, "You need to tell him this."
Yeah, and the phrase that we started kind of like saying to ourselves and saying, like she said earlier, throughout our household was, "Even for one."
Mhm. It was just like
Like,
a short, quick phrase.
yeah,
Like, I would just see him getting to feed him, like, "Even for
"Even
one?"
for one."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I even started like putting that like in my post, like, "Even for one." Like, um, I gave you credit for it and everything, but I started saying like, "Even for one." Just different ways that I could
Mhm.
fit it into what I was posting and the things that I was, putting on social media.
Yeah.
But I started talking about even for one, and then one day I started flipping through the Bible. I was like, even for one, E for one. How many books of the Bible start with the letter E? Okay, there's a handful.
Yeah.
Surely they all have a chapter 4, verse 1 in them. So let's take a look through and see, like, where is this really like rooted in? Where is this grounded? And I'm like, Esther for one? Nah, that's not it. Ecclesiastes for one. No, that doesn't fit. Ezekiel for one.
I think he's so silly for
No.
doing this. I was like, "Dude, what are you saying?"
I was
And
like,
you're like, I'm just looking for, like, language. I mean, that's, like, the big thing. It was, like, true blind obedience and faith to Christ
yeah,
because it's, like, a lot of it was just like a, I don't know, like,
I
let's
don't
just see
know.
what the Lord's gonna reveal tomorrow,
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I get to Ephesians 4:1.
mhm,
Um, I read it and I remember coming to you. I was like, I think this is it. I think
mhm,
this is like what it is that
like
we
the
are
heart.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the heart behind what you said in the gym that day and the heart behind like what it is that we feel like the Lord is like placed within us.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember reading it and, paraphrasing it a lot, but basically Paul is like, therefore, uh, because I'm a prisoner of Jesus Christ, I like beg you and I'm like pleading with you to
Mhm.
live a life that's worthy of the calling that you've
Yeah.
received because you've been called by God.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, like that's what this is because we're both super passionate about like helping people mature and grow and like cultivating resources and cultivating spaces and environments and doing whatever we can through the giftings that the Lord has given us to help people grow and mature. So when we came across that, I was like, oh, like that really helps to put language
Yeah.
to even for one, Eve for one, Ephesians for one, all the
Yeah.
things. So we really started to like root ourselves and ground ourselves in that.
Mhm.
And from there, we kind of realized that, like, well, we like I said, we like to create content. You worked on this devotional for,
I think you were still a youth pa like, I don't
I
even
think
I
so.
think it was, like, before we even thought I
Yeah,
just, like, felt like a big part of my story was, like, spending intentional time with God every single day, and how that changed like, my relationship with Jesus or honestly started a relationship
hmm,
with Jesus, let's just and so, yeah, I felt like, "Okay, like, I'm gonna, like, make a devotional, for others to" again, going
experience.
back to
Yeah,
just creating resources, and it's just yeah, it's, like, literally just, like there was never one big moment
yeah,
where we just figured it out,
yeah.
which is why this episode's a little bit longer because it's just there was just there was no, like, step up to this, like, big moment. I mean, like, we're still figuring out language for some things,
Yeah,
but I think the biggest thing is just, like, being obedient to taking that step and just trusting and knowing that the Lord is gonna work all things out for our good and His glory.
yeah.
So,
So we have that realization, that revelation, and through some God connections and conversations, we're able
mhm,
to figure out like from the legal practical side of things. It's like,
yeah,
get your EIN, get everything that you need to like create an organization legally.
mhm,
But what really was happening was like we realized that like, oh, the Lord has like placed a unique expression of ministry within us.
yeah,
And it wasn't just about being on church staff and doing ministry from that aspect, which is needed. Like we gotta have church every Sunday.
for
Like we
sure. That's
gotta
so important.
like people need to go to church. Like,
Yeah,
and it takes people, it takes staff, it takes resources to do that. That's
yeah,
100% necessary. And I just realized that like our unique expression is to be able to come alongside that and
yeah,
partner with churches and partner with, people that work on staff and people that do all those things, but to just really come alongside them and
mhm,
help them minister as well.
yeah,
Um, and help them, mature and grow and do all the things that the Lord has called us to do. So from that, we realized we're like, oh, we need to like launch a ministry, like
yeah. That's so crazy.
crazy.
I know,
Like I didn't
because
even
we
think,
didn't I mean, yes, I have, like, my family, I have some family members that have, like, created organizations or
yeah,
foundations and things like
yeah,
that, but, like, nothing that I'd seen in my adult life. I went to college and got a degree and I did that,
yeah.
like, that's how,
That's like the
like,
Christian. Yeah,
my parents went to college, my dad went back to college and is doing that,
yeah.
and so, yeah, so this was, like, a really big deal because
It's
this is
huge.
not something that we had really like, we didn't have, like, a in quote, like, example,
Yeah,
like, ahead of us of, like we had friends and things that, like, did that full time, but, like, not anyone in our, like, personal life that we were, like, witnessing and thought, "Oh, maybe we should try it." No,
yeah,
it was, like, literally,
yeah,
like, a vision
yeah.
from heaven that
100%.
this is what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and we got to the point where it's like, oh, like you came from a family where it's like you go to college,
Yeah.
you get your degree,
Yeah.
you go into the workforce, you
Mhm.
work way up from there,
Yeah.
which a blessing 100%. Like I've
Yeah.
literally seen it. Like your dad, I'm your dad's biggest fan. I can't even lie. Like, but your dad has like lived that out.
Yeah.
It's worked out great for him. Like,
Yeah.
dude's a judge. He was a successful lawyer for a long time.
Mhm.
So like, that was your context, and that was kind of my context too. I just kind of thought that's the way you do life.
Yeah.
And even in ministry, I thought that's the way you do life. You go to Bible school, you get a church job, and you work
Yeah.
your way up from there.
Yeah. And I do have to say, not that my parents didn't encourage me to, like,
Oh,
go out and do
by no
things, because
means.
my dad jokes too, he's always like, "If any of my kids would have moved, like, to 3 different states before the age of 25 and, like, married a pastor, like, it would have been you."
Yeah,
And so, like, I'm gosh, I have to give so much credit to my parents. My parents when I told him I was moving to Missouri, especially with my mom, like, we were
Yeah,
best
they were like, "Go
friends,
for
and,
it."
like, they were like, "Go."
Yeah,
Like, if that's what you feel like God's called you to do, like, go. Like, we're not gonna stand next to you when you stand before God and be like, "Well, we wanted her to stay home." It's like, "No." Like, I want you to stand before God and say, like, God, I'm willing to do whatever you ask of me, and
yeah,
as a parent, I'm not gonna be the one to keep you from that. I'm not gonna answer to God
yeah.
to say I held my kid back from doing what the Lord had called you to do." So, I do have to say is they were just very successful in that they went to school and
Mhm.
it worked out for them, and so
Absolutely.
just, like, I was a byproduct of that,
Yeah,
like, okay, what worked for them must work for me, and
exactly.
so
So it's like
that's why we have that, like,
yeah,
overarching picture of, like,
yeah,
what we thought.
and it's like now that we're here, it's like, "Oh, like, shoot, this is wild."
Yeah.
Because like, that's the context that we share, and that's the context that we have. I know my family, like, my aunt, she's pretty entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
um, but nothing like, from a ministry standpoint, again,
Yeah.
I just didn't think that that's how, it's
Mhm.
supposed to go.
Yeah.
But again, like, felt like the Lord had placed on us and placed within us a unique expression, a unique vision of ministry,
Yeah.
and in a way that allows us to really operate in the gifts that he has given us. Because like,
Mhm.
I'm passionate about preaching and teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a great speaker. Like, you're a great,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, you speak every day.
that's true. That's true.
But you're a great speaker.
Thank
You're
you.
passionate about worship. I'm passionate about worship. We're both passionate about creating resources,
Mhm.
cultivating spaces where
Yeah.
people can come and encounter Jesus. We're passionate about, helping people mature. And it's like the Lord is like, yeah, and Matthew 25, comes to mind as we're talking. It's like, yeah, and I placed all that in you because I
Mhm.
don't want you to like bury it in the ground.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to lose hope because you going off and multiplying it doesn't necessarily look like the way that you thought it would look like.
Yeah.
I'm still giving you an avenue to multiply the gifts that I've given you just because it's not in your timeline or in your typical or what you thought was going to happen when it comes to ministry.
Right.
Um, so it's like now we're in this position where it's like, yeah, we're still multiplying. We're still using the gifts that God has given
Mhm.
us. We're still partnering and plugged in and rooted in local church.
Yeah.
Again, we're just coming alongside the local church. And yeah, now we're here and we want to create spaces and resources where, you know, this is kind of like our mission, our theme, our
Mhm.
if we could say it, sum it up in a few sentences, it would be like we're here to create spaces and resources for the one, which
Mhm.
is Jesus. We're also here to create spaces and resources to help people see the one, know the one, and to
Mhm.
help people who want to help point other people to the one.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's kind of our heart. That's kind of what we're not kind of that's what we are doing here.
Yeah.
That's why we have two free devotionals that we put out to coincide with the launch of this ministry.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why, any opportunity that we get to preach and share our story and do all the things, minister, worship, all the things.
Mhm.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of brought us here to the present day. And like Maddie said a little bit earlier, it hasn't been like this one big aha moment
Yeah.
and series of being faithful, a series of
Mhm.
moments of being devoted to the Lord and seeking Him, even when it was hard, even when
Mhm.
it was uncomfortable, even when, we didn't know what tomorrow was going to hold or what it was going to look like. It
Yeah.
was just a series of moments of submitting and being like, Lord, whatever you want to do, like
Mhm.
your will be done, not ours. No matter how hard, it might be, no matter how much we
Yeah.
want it to go a different direction.
Yeah. And
And it landed us here.
I was gonna say too, like if you're listening and you're like in a season 2 where it's like, man, like I wish I had been as faithful at that. Like maybe that would have worked out for me. We were so imperfect. And I don't want to spend too
Mhm.
much time on this because I know we've talked a while, but just like a reminder too of like you are not big enough to throw off the plan that God has for you, and like there is really no wrong decision when you're seeking the will of God,
Yes.
and to remember that as a new creation in Christ, like you have the mind of Christ, and
Yes.
if you think an answer to a situation that you're facing is the right way to go, it probably is because you have the Spirit guiding you.
Yeah.
And the great part about it is that if it's in quote not the right answer,
Yeah.
then God is sovereign and he will get you back to where
Yes.
he's called you to be. And I think we put so much stress on like getting it right because we sit here and say like, yes, it was a series of being faithful, but like there's a lot of times where I was like, God, what in the world?
Mhm.
Like just my real honest emotions before him. And honestly, like I wouldn't say like anger, but kinda. I mean, honestly, just angry of like and frustrated with the season that we were in. And so yes, I mean, we were faithful and I don't want to diminish that at all. Like
Absolutely.
it you don't have to be 100%. Like God just wants your heart. Like and we just it's just our job to steward well what the Lord has given us and just trust and know that no matter what happens, like, you'll get there.
Yeah,
Like, God is, you know, directing and authoring your story, and you don't have to have it all figured out,
yeah,
but He does. And so just to trust in that and lean on
100%. And doing that honestly, authentically, genuinely
that. Mhm.
led us here to where we are today.
Yeah,
And that's filming this first episode of the Even for One podcast.
yeah,
Um, so now we're here, and there's going to be more episodes to come in the future. We're going to
yeah.
have guests and all these things here coming in the future, and all those things that we're excited about. More episodes so you can find out more about who we are, like us as people, our story, how we got together, how I outkicked my coverage and got to marry her. Um, and just the blessing that the Lord has placed in our lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is part of the heart of Even for One is to create conversations and have conversations that are centered around Jesus so that you can see him and know him if you don't know him, or if you already know him, to grow and mature and deepen your relationship with him. So before we wrap up, um, this is the first episode, so I do want to kind of implement a little tradition, if you will,
Mhm.
for our episodes whenever we get to host and whenever we have guests and all those things. But Ephesians 4:1, the paraphrased version, Eugene Peterson wrote it, paraphrased the Bible. And in Ephesians 4:1, he says, um, "I want you to walk, no, run on
Mhm.
the path that God has set before you." And from that, reading that, kind of the tagline or whatever you want to call it, "Run worthy," kind of came to mind, came to heart.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, the title of one of our devotionals,
Mhm.
Run Worthy. But that kind of came to mind, and a little tradition I want to implement or start here on the podcast is just ending the episode by asking, um, where do you feel like you're running worthy, quote unquote,
Mhm.
in your life, or where do you feel like you could run worthy, run a little better,
Mhm.
um, on the path and run the race that God has set before you? And
Mhm.
essentially, the question is, where do you feel like you're living a life that's worthy of the calling that God has placed on
I don't think I've gotten this 100% like perfect, but I will say that this is, and it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but like I will say this is the most consistent I've ever been in my relationship with Jesus. Like when it comes to getting up early in the mornings and reading my Bible and praying, serving at a church, being plugged into a small group.
you?
We're in a small group together, like a married small group, and are consistently showing up to that when we can. And regardless, I mean, getting up in the mornings and just spending time in His Word has become probably one of my favorite parts of the day because I just like it sounds cliche, but I can tell a difference in my day when I don't and when I do. And so just being consistent in his word and growing my relationship with him. I grew up in a home where that was important, but it has never looked like this until now. And being able to develop that relationship, that intimate relationship with Jesus, I would say is somewhere that I am running worthy, if you will.
Yeah.
Of course, can always grow. That's why maybe it's like I'm hesitating a little bit because like I feel like we can always I mean, we're gonna continue to grow in our relationship with Jesus until we come face to face with him. And even then, being in eternity and serving him and all the things. But I would say somewhere that I could maybe uh, that I'd like to grow in would just be like memorizing scripture.
Mm,
And just I know this a lot of this like seems practical, but I think that's just something that I would love to like to grow in because I just said that there is a difference from when I spend time in His Word and when I don't, and so that tells me that what I'm reading is life changing,
yeah.
and being able to memorize those scriptures and, being able just to, like, rattle those off essentially, I know would benefit my life greatly, so wanna share both. I mean, I think I'm doing well in that area, but also, again, I think that that's where I could grow it kind of almost in the same space.
Well, I get the sneak peek behind the scenes, and I can definitely attest that you are the epitome of consistency and the epitome of being devoted to this life changing, this life giving thing that is the Bible, that is the Word of God, that is relationship with Jesus. I'm not at all a morning person in the
No.
slightest. My Jesus time comes mid morning to late morning. That's when I feel like I'm functioning the best. She gets up at 5:30 most mornings. I mean,
Yeah.
you ain't perfect.
Right.
None of us are perfect. I'm being funny, but you get up at 5:30 most mornings, and we have a special machine. You make yourself a nice little brown sugar.
I love how you know all of well, because he does my dishes.
Well,
That's how
yeah,
he
I do.
knows.
But you make yourself a nice little brown sugar espresso, and you even posted the other day like you were in your word and you're reading the devo that you wrote.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you're just the epitome of consistency, and you do that routinely, and I can definitely notice the shift the change and the growth that you have lived in and walked in over the past almost 4 years that I've known you. So yeah, you're the
Thank
epitome of
you.
that. And if if you're in a position where it's like, how do I read the Bible? Like, you don't have to be a theologian, you don't have to be a scholar, you don't have to have
No.
20,000 degrees or 20,000 letters behind your name to engage in this deep, authentic relationship with Jesus. And I think you're living, walking testimony of that. So yeah, that's how we got here. That's
Yeah.
how Even for One came to be about. Um,
Thanks for listening.
yeah, thanks for listening.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching.
We'd love to hear,
Yeah,
if this blessed you, we'd love to hear it and to share it with friends and family. And yeah, like we said, our mission is to reach even the one, who maybe feel like they're an outcast or in the shadows. Like we, you know,
yeah,
um, want everyone to hear about Jesus and uh, hear our story and hear the redemptive ways and the provisional ways that he showed up in our lives. And so, yeah, thanks
thousand
for,
percent.
we appreciate all the support.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I'm
yeah.
excited.
We'll be here. You can watch this on YouTube every other Monday.
Wherever you
Uh,
find your podcast.
yeah, you can listen everywhere that you listen to your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I think
Okay.
Amazon has
Okay.
has a podcast
We'll
situation.
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, we'll be here. You can expect new episodes every other Monday. So we'll see you here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.